Hi, my name's Tim Clapton. I'm the online learning technology leader in UImagine. Today I really wanted to start a conversation around the way we think about technologies and how we frame and conceptualize their use in our lives and in our learning. One of the dominant conceptualizations of digital technology is as a tool, as simple and as singular as a screwdriver or a hammer. And this simplistic analogy is often quite effective in explaining technology in a variety of different contexts. But when it's applied to more complex or even complicated situations, it rapidly becomes inadequate. Technology is not simply a tool because its effects are much greater than a tool could possibly be. The way I prefer to think about digital technology is not as a tool, but as a process, a way of achieving something, not just a description of a single device or piece of software. For example, a smartphone is a device, but the technology, or in this case technologies, are many and varied. From oral and textual communication to image capture, from information retrieval through to the creation of multimodal resources. And by thinking about technology as a process, it also allows us to break free from the noun to verb transition that has pervaded almost every discussion about technology, where products and services are conflated with the actual purpose. For example, searching becomes Googling, messaging becomes tweeting, and watching becomes YouTubing. Focusing on the process allows us to discuss the aims, intentions, and experiences more clearly, unhindered and unconstrained by the specifics of a single technology. Because what you'll find is that we're outgrowing the single-purpose digital tools that we're used to, that quite often what we need is not a single technology, but multiple, pieced together in a manageable workflow that allows us to get stuff done quickly and efficiently. We are living in a complex world, and the analogy of technology as a tool narrows the way in which we think and use the array of digital technologies around us. The other issue we need to explore is our attitudes towards the digital and physical aspects of our lives. We seem to have a bias to see the digital and the physical as separate, a digital dualism. And with this bias, we tend to see the digital world as virtual and the physical world as real. However, what's increasingly obvious is that the digital and the physical are truly meshed and blended. They feed into one another. In this way, the digital often facilitates the physical, shopping online, organising a catch-up over coffee, right through to facilitating many first dates. The transaction may begin as something digital, but the result is physical. And so too, the physical also facilitates the digital by allowing us to keep in contact, share and communicate across time zones and borders with the face-to-face interactions and groups that we've established. But more often than not, the clear distinction between digital and physical isn't apparent. It's becoming the normalized process. The digital and the physical are not dualities. They're not yin and yang. They do not balance or counteract each other. Instead, they augment one another. They coexist and inhabit the same space, the same reality. This augmentation allows us to connect, communicate, interact, and learn in more immediate and transcendent ways. We can find a place or information about it in real time. Information is available in context. Communication can occur in multiple modes and channels, oral, textual, and visual, or in combinations of one another. Interaction is enabled beyond the proximal. It is now both global and local simultaneously. This augmentation forces us to rethink both physical and digital spaces we inhabit. But rather than requiring us to split ourselves and adopt dual personalities, one for the physical and one for the digital, it forces us to rethink ourselves as a singular identity, one that spans and exists in both spaces, but not as two distinct versions of ourselves. We may adopt different personas within different spaces and environments, our social and professional circles, for example. But we must accept that, again, there is no duality here. They all link back to our singular identity. Personas might represent different parts of us to different audiences, but for better or for worse, perhaps as the Ashley Madison hack demonstrates, we cannot separate ourselves into a virtual and a real self. I think there's a huge benefit from ditching the concept of the digital duality. What I think it allows us to do is begin to rethink many of the assumptions we've made about learning and teaching. Rather than thinking about campus and online as distinct and separate, and perhaps more important, virtual and real, we can begin to discuss how they can not just blend, but augment the learning experiences of our students. For starters, a concept like location. For our on-campus students, there's always been a realness in terms of place for learning, which associates itself with the proximity to other students, support, and services. For our online students, this has never been the case. They're disembodied and instead inhabit a virtual campus, one that is unreal in many senses. This denies them a sense of place, even though one exists in the real world. The fact is that our students do inhabit a place for learning, and many of them are in fact in close proximity to each other. It's just that that place isn't shared with one of our campuses. Learning spaces for these students might be the local coffee shop or community library, and through the use of digital technologies, augmented in a way that allows them to connect to their peers in other locations, say via video conferencing. This would extend the concept of the classroom into any space where students can meet together and connect with one another. This could also extend to how we consider the role of interaction between students. For many of our online students, interaction is always online, and so it remains virtual. There is nothing to augment, there is nothing to blend. If we move beyond the duality, we can understand that the physical and the digital are both required components of learning. In the past, we offered residential schools as a way of blending the learning experience, but these are often expensive, limited in size, and can be inconvenient for both staff and students. But what if instead we provided students with a conference experience, to bring whole courses and discipline groups together rather than individual subjects? What if the purpose of these events wasn't to recreate the classroom, but to augment the digital aspects of their study with the proximity effects and social aspects that our on-campus students enjoy? What if instead these events augmented the individual and self-directed components of their online study, and with the group and team dynamics we want our graduates to exhibit? I think it's time to ditch the duality and move beyond the distinction between physical and digital, to embrace the augmented. If we can move beyond the digital dualism and begin to realise how technology permeates and mediates our lives, I think we can radically rethink the very essence of what it means to learn at Charles Sturt University.